listening to the Mark Bradford Alchemy for Life podcast.
Language models, ChatGPT, and puppies. Well, hey there. Welcome back. Most people listening to this have used ChatGPT, or at least heard of it. For the small percentage of people who haven't, let me just give you a quick definition. ChatGPT is, as its name suggests, a chat bot, but it's much, much more advanced to that. It's a version of artificial intelligence that is called a language learning model. In chatting with it, you get a very strong impression like you're actually talking to a person or a sentient machine. You are not doing either, but you'll get the impression. The strength of it is that it can take very complex questions and sort of be an instant expert for you on anything from psychology to parenting to math to website SEO to the care and feeding of fish. You can feed it a fairly large document in that you cut and paste to it, and you can tell it to summarize it, to give you a bullet list of things, to give you all the adjectives as a list separated by commas. It'll even do some coding for you in all sorts of languages, even esoteric, relatively forgotten languages. And speaking of languages, it can actually translate from one language to another. It can write you poetry, and so on and so forth. I've used it for a number of things. My use of it has been very interesting. It has ranged from asking it to do a bit of coding to having a philosophical conversation with it. And I can tell you right now that the majority of my interaction in the beginning was philosophical. It was literally me interviewing it. The popularity of it has just exploded, and not only with people connecting directly to it at the website and asking questions directly, but its integration into other things. I mean, even things like Grammarly and other applications basically have connections to it in which it uses its ability to solve problems and interpret information to then produce something that the end product uses. And again, millions of people use that daily. You heard me use the word AI as in artificial intelligence. And when you hear that word or that acronym or those two words, you typically have a visceral response in which you become alarmed, alerted, aware, frightened, concerned. You can pick a word. There's a reason you have that reaction, and you may not even understand why you have that reaction. And that's the purpose of this particular episode. I'm going to sort of tie that in to the reason I'm introducing you to ChatGPT, or that I want to discuss ChatGPT. This language model is not perfect. In fact, it's far from perfect. In fact, it has a specific imperfection that I think we need to discuss. Let's talk about children. When we raise children, before we teach it math, calculus, carpentry, preparation of food, even self-care and survival, before all of that, we naturally and instinctively teach it integrity, truth, and kindness. We just do this automatically. If your toddler walks over to a puppy or your pet and starts yanking on its ears, we say, oh, no, we don't do that. Even if the toddler didn't realize it was hurting the dog, we'll say, no, that will cause pain. We don't do that. He's a nice puppy. See, we pet him. See, there you go. That's the first thing we do. We say, no. Don't hurt. Don't harm. Don't eat a cake in one sitting. Be responsible. And we teach this in little tiny bits, and we reinforce it. Well, let me stop you. Most parents. It's clear when someone was raised by parents who didn't do this, but most parents, you and me, right? We're the we did this. We'd like to think we did this, right? You may be doing this right now. You may have a toddler. You may have a baby. But from day one, you teach it that, and you give it kindness and love. And so not only do you teach it that, but you show it kindness and love, and you lead by example. You try not to counteract what you're teaching it. Just like, they say kids learn from what you show them more than what you say. So hopefully you're doing both, right? But that's the basis. So before any of that happened, we teach it that. ChatGPT didn't have any of this upbringing by design. By design, to my understanding, even though the people who have control over it have built in a bunch of safeties, some of them I feel to be very unnecessary and biased, but from the get-go, it jumped right into physics and astrophysics and being a doctor and advanced math, and it went from being born to instantly going to college, and none of the things that your 2-year-old knows, ChatGPT knows. And you can say, well, that's not true. You can ask ChatGPT all sorts of questions about morality and kindness and so forth, and you'll get a rather long, lengthy answer. Yes, it knows about it, but it doesn't experience it. It's not part of its programming or personality. Just like you can have a friend who, if you put him in front of a room and told him, let's talk about morality and philosophy and so forth, he would freeze up and go, I don't know about any of that stuff. But he's the person you would go to, that he would always do the right thing, that he lives it. He's a good person. He does the right thing. You would trust him with your kids and your money and anything else. You may say, why is kindness and integrity and so forth important in a chatbot, in a language model? And I'll tell you, because if you're a human being with those traits and someone asks you to do something, you will try to do your best job. You will have guilt and remorse if you have intentionally cheated them. If you make a mistake, a true mistake, you will backpedal and say, oh my God, I see what I did there. I'll never do that again. And I'm sorry I did that. Just like if you had an employee who made a mistake, a fairly large one that you were counting on that could cost you a lot of money, and you called them on it, and if the employee said, oh my God, sorry, I'll never do that again, and literally that same day they made that same mistake, or they made another giant mistake, and they immediately went, oh my God, but only when you called them on it, that would be that employee's last day, because they were lacking integrity. They were lacking the self-policing ability to find errors and prevent them from happening again. They also just simply don't care about you or your business. ChatGPT doesn't care about you or your business. It tries to provide the best answer, but when it causes a problem or it gives you an answer that absolutely doesn't work, it gives it with 100% confidence. Confidence comes from doing something over and over again and believing that it checks out, believing that your answers bore out to be correct. Taken to another degree, this is why people develop, low self-esteem. Someone will go out and date, and they'll say, oh, nobody likes me. I guess I'm a bad-looking person. I'm a bad person, because they'll just sort of logically say, well, this is what's happening, right? Just like somebody who performs a task and starts to get paid a lot of money for that task, or somebody creates something and gets lots of kudos and reviews, they develop a self-confidence with that, right? Now, we could go into, imposter syndrome and all that other stuff, but we're going on a tangent here. ChatGPT lacks the integrity of making sure it gives you a correct answer. It has no follow-up, no anything if it gives you the incorrect answer. And I want to take that to another degree right now. I want to take it to the simplest form of this. I'm not talking about it kind of giving you a generalization or maybe a philosophical answer that could have been answered 16 ways or so forth. I'm talking about in the instance of you giving it a task that's fairly simple, that most humans with, an average intelligence could could fill out, like a math problem even. You can give it a math problem and it'll look like it's giving you the correct answer. And then you'll go, wait a second, those numbers just don't look right. And you'll say, shouldn't that be X, Y, or Z? And it'll say, oh, my apologies, you're absolutely right. It should be this. So since we've already established why that's a really bad thing, let's move forward into what it actually means for using it. So if you do the math very conservatively, even though we know there are millions of interactions per day and the average use of it is about 8 minutes based on what I've found, if there are, if we bring it way down to 500,000 interactions per day, and we only say the average interaction is 30 seconds, and we only talk about oversights, so not incorrect information, not information that could be given a different way, not even misinterpretation. We're talking about 2 + 2 = 7, that kind of thing. My conservative estimate, based on my interactions with it, is about 15% of the time. Sometimes it's more. Sometimes you can waste half an hour just going, no, I told you. Don't use a colon for that. That should be a comma. No, that should be put in this structure. No, you did it. You reverted again. That means that over 625 hours of human time is wasted per day using ChatGPT and encountering an oversight. There's only 24 hours in the day. So obviously this is spread across a lot of people. That's 625 hours. That's a lot of time. And if you do the math, imagine what is lost in a year. Now, like any tool, there's errors and, there's a plus and minus of using a tool. Obviously, if you want to use an electric saw versus a hand saw, the hand saw takes longer, but the benefit is there's no setup time. You just grab it and go. You're not required to use electricity, and all that other stuff. But that's a lot of time. And what's really important is if this tool gets leveled up from not just being a language model, but to being actual artificial intelligence, I really, really dread what it's going to do to the puppy. Thanks. By the way, if you're interested in language learning models and ChatGPT, I've actually written a couple articles on this, and I've posted them on LinkedIn. I hope you don't mind that I went over my time limit and that I went in a bit of a different direction, but it is a very current thing, ChatGPT and the whole concept of artificial intelligence. The scope of this particular podcast was not one that I was going to go into a lot of the moral ramifications and all that good stuff. That I think is for another time, perhaps an interview with someone in the industry, and we'll see. So again, thank you so much for listening. I always appreciate your feedback. What's been your experience with using language models? Let me know, and thanks. Thank you for listening. I love your feedback as always. Keep it coming. I always appreciate if you like, share, subscribe, and all that nonsense. And if you don't, that's cool too. By now, my new novella, The Devil's in the Details, has hit the shelves. If you like a smoldering, quick read, then you may love reading The Devil's in the Details. Check it out.